When we're doing the thing that we love the most, there is no selfishness. Selfishness is an illusion. It's like when you see and I mean, I'm sharing this because it took me a while to land here, but for people listening, we sometimes have this idea that our gift is somehow selfish. But if you think of your favorite musician on stage and they're just like blaring it, blasting it from their heart, from their soul, no one's thinking, wow, he's so fucking all about himself. She's so all about herself. Never. No one ever thinks that. They're just like, wow, thank you. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Because as we give of our greatest gift, we give it to ourselves and we give it to the world. And that's where there's, it's like what is most personal is most universal. What is most universal is most personal. That is it. That's what we're all looking to do, is to be able to activate ourselves in such a way that we can give of our gifts. And giving of that is the greatest gift.
Man, you're flashing me back to a few different conversations I've heard from Rick Rubin. He's a huge speaker in the art of creativity. And my buddy Luke has interviewed him. He's been interviewed by all the huge shows in the world. And I think someone asked him once, they said, do you ever worry how people will receive your craft or will feel about your art? And he goes, no, I do it for me. It's not for them. And that's why it's so successful. So here's a guy that has literally created music, art, and beautiful things at the highest level possible, at least in this current reality. And his answer was, I do it for me. But you know what was funny is when he said that, I didn't feel an air of egotism. I didn't feel him saying like, I do it for me because fuck y'all. It's more like, I do it for me because it gives permission to do it for them.
Yeah.
And there's a primary difference that I'd love for you to go into here. When we are expressing from ego or from unintegrated wounds, there's a certain energy, there's a subtle energy that we can all feel from the expressor. When someone is expressing from an integrated wholeness, but they're just expressing because they love the thing and they're just into it, we love it. We can't get enough of it because it's like I can feel my taste buds right now. We want that so much because they're just enjoying what they're doing. Like I'm enjoying with you right now.
Yeah.
This podcast is about my ego integrating, me learning wisdom and then recapitulating that and sharing it through my unique lens. So I wonder how you feel about this. People at the highest levels that you've coached, or even people just on the journey, or even yourself. How have you integrated the ego so that when you share, it can be a gift and a treat and a satiation to the permission that's being so sought from everyone that wants it? How have you done that work yourself and with clients?
Well, I think the first piece that I've done with myself and also with clients is working on the parts that don't feel safe to be that don't feel good enough, don't feel safe enough, don't feel loved enough, and learning how to be with those parts, those aspects of our self, our psyche, our nervous system, so that I can be there for them and create a level of safety within myself that then allows me to be able to be who I am.
Do you think those parts are coming from fear or judgment?
Absolutely.
What are those parts and how do those parts try to pull away from the momentum?
Well, I'll speak from my own experience. Those parts that have tried to quote unquote limit me are really just trying to protect me.
From what?
From fear based on past conditioning and trauma. I mean, if we all go back to being 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years old, depending on the level of how much you're seen, how much you're loved, how much safety there was in your home, that's all being learned. We're like sponges just absorbing all of that. You'll see that with your 2 kids. And then that creates our primary attachment system. So that's, am I safe? Am I loved? Am I secure in myself? Or, for anyone there who's an attachment geek, but I can break this down in a very simple way, our attachment needs are only going to go one of 3 ways, technically 4. The first is that we could become graspy. So because my needs aren't getting met, I'm going to grasp for your love. So I'm going to need your love, which could also be food or drugs. Or
this is the anxious attachment style.
That's the anxious attachment style. Yeah. You got it. And the other way is aversion. So, Buddhism would call it aversion. In Western psychology, we call it avoidance. So the other strategy is if my needs aren't getting met, I'm going to pull away. That's another strategy. However, the middle point and where we want to be inside of ourselves and for one another is security, safety, trust, connection. The fourth one, just because I referenced it before, would be a combination, which is disorganized. Sometimes you're grasping, or you're anxious, or sometimes you're avoiding. You're
the vacillator type.
The vacillator type.
Yeah,
exactly.
Would that also be ambivalence or no?
Ambivalence.
Is that separate?
It's the. Oh no, ambivalence would be separate.
Okay.
So again, we're just talking about key patterns here. So to go back to your question, I recognized that was the aspects of myself, my nervous system that were showing up when I went to share, when I went to open up, when I went to be more intimate with a friend or went to share my gifts, that those parts would be like, whoa, they would come up and then they would be like, that's not safe. And I would find I'd find something else to do, or I'd find a reason or an excuse.
Yeah.
So what made sense to me was, well, why don't I just address what's arising here, bring that back into a state of connection, and then take action? And I mean, I had some good teachers too, but that worked. That actually worked. And as I did that each step, then the integration piece would, okay, cool, now take a step forward. Actually begin to integrate that into your life. And I started to feel empowered because I was being given the skills, the liberative skills, in order to regulate my own nervous system, in order to how to be with the parts of me that are feeling shame, guilt, or fear, or not enoughness, and bring them back into connection, bring them back into enoughness, and then take a step, and then take a step, and then something else arises. But as long as I have the skills, or you have the skills, or we have the skills, then that's the empowerment piece. It's not like these things at first for me were super complicated. I was like, oh, like how do I do it? How do I actually transform? How do I embody? How do I integrate? And what really stuck for me and what I really care about and what I want to give to everyone, and including all my clients, is those skills. Like, what are the key skills that we need in order to be able to get the wheel moving in regards to our liberative development? And there are some certain core skills that are vital, or certainly skillful, to learn how to do so that we can then continue on the path.
Now, my next question is about those skills, but it's framed against that initial zesty, amazing question, which was, how do we express and celebrate our gift without egotism, right? So that's really the crux of my question. What are some of those key practices of tuning into the nervous system, and what does that look like on a real, visceral level?
So if we think about it this way, what we're really looking how to do is, if we're looking to express our gifts, is what are the conditions upon which would naturally allow our gifts to be expressed? So those conditions are obviously internal conditions that allow for us to do that. And a part of that is creating enough safety and trust within ourselves that, like, I've got me. My nervous system can settle. If fears come up, I got me. If doubt comes up, I got that. So that we can then take the step forward towards our own expression, so that we can feel safe enough in ourselves to express to another. Because that's where people get caught, right? It's like, if we've got John and Sally here, imaginary characters, and they grew up where they didn't get fully seen by their parents. They lived in a slightly unsafe environment, or they went to school and they didn't quite fit in quite well, and they created beliefs around themselves. Well, even if they were the most incredible musicians or artists or creators, those beliefs and those experiences that will be in their nervous system, in their body, are then going to show up when they're 25, 35, 45 years old, when they go to express themselves. They're going to be dealing with the same conditions and patterns that have been there their whole life. And the challenge is, as we get older, those patterns can then start to deepen themselves, and we can start to affirm them as a part of who we are. And this is where the inner tech's really helpful, especially the Buddhist tech, is because we start to see that the self that we've created is actually constructed. We have constructed a self, and it is being conditioned, which is beautiful because it means it can be reconditioned with the ingredients, the soil, the nutrients that allow our gifts to flow, that allow our gifts to thrive. Like if you imagine a big, beautiful fruit tree, we want to give that fruit tree the nutrients in order for it to give of its fruits. And as it gives of its fruits, the birds, the animals eat them, and then they go and they plant those seeds more and more. It just becomes this beautiful, harmonious cycle of nature and life of giving and receiving. And what we're looking how to do within ourselves, what I've been looking to do this whole time, is to create the internal conditions so that I have self-sovereignty, that I have access to serotonin and oxytocin, that I don't need it from other things. I can access love within myself, and that I have the capacity to be able to focus on that which is important to me, whether that be a conversation, whether that be with my wife, whether that be on a project that I'm working on, so I can express what's here on my heart.
Whoa. So you love that episode? You'll love the one on the screen. Click it and enjoy.